This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on India-ASEAN Summit. The participants are Skand Ranjan Tayal, former diplomat, and Simran Sodhi, journalist.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi today addressed the 17th ASEAN-India Summit, and the PM in his remarks said that ASEAN has always been the core of our Act East policy. He also said that there are many similarities between India's Indo-Pacific Ocean initiatives and ASEAN's outlook on Indo-Pacific. Ambassador Tyal, when you see the ASEAN-India Summit, which took place in a virtual format today, and the Prime Minister emphasizing that this has been the core of our Act East policy, how do you see the relationship between ASEAN and India today?
Prime Minister rightly said that ASEAN is at the core of our Act East policy. As all our listeners know, the Look East policy started in 1992-93 by Prime Minister Narasimha Rao at that time. But during Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's time, the relationship with ASEAN was raised and it became annual summit-level interaction between the Prime Ministers of India and the government or presidents of ASEAN. So now it is the 17th summit, which unfortunately had to take place in a virtual format. Last year, Prime Minister had gone to Bangkok in November for the 16th summit. And over the years, the relations between India and ASEAN as a group have grown tremendously. ASEAN headquarters are at Jakarta in Indonesia, and we have a separate ambassador there. And over the years, there have been plans of action, and there has been much achievement on different areas, whether it is economic cooperation. Now we also have a strategic partnership with ASEAN, which was declared at the 20th anniversary of India-ASEAN interaction. So the relations have been growing very well, and in ASEAN members' core strategy, also India has a very important place, being third largest economy in Asia. Now trade between India and ASEAN countries is almost $100 billion. Of course, there will be some setback this year because of the COVID-19 virus, but investment relationship, the trade relationship, as well as the people-to-people relationship between India and ASEAN is going very well and becoming stronger by the day.
Ambassador Tyal, we also see that there is a lot of literature which comes out when we talk of ASEAN, specifying that maybe this is going to serve or is also at present serving as some form of a counter to check the rising aggressive behavior of China in the Indo-Pacific. Do you feel that ASEAN can act as a counter or can act as a force which kind of compels China to stop its aggressive behavior or to lessen its aggression?
The 10 member countries of ASEAN have different levels of relationship and friendship and commercial transactions with China. And for many of them, China is their primary or the highest trade partner. But also in South China Sea, China has been very aggressive, and it has encroached upon the maritime boundaries of maritime features of Vietnam, of Malaysia, of Indonesia, of Brunei, and also of Philippines. So the 5 countries of ASEAN have strained relationship with China as far as their maritime boundary is concerned. And the entire strategy of Indo-Pacific peace and stability postulated by India, by United States, by Japan, etc. is based on respect for territorial integrity, on maritime security, and on shared progress, and also that all the countries, including China, should follow international rules-based system. Now, ASEAN has also come with a paper which is called Outlook on Indo-Pacific, Of course, India has its own Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative, and as Prime Minister said in his statement today at the virtual summit, that there are many similarities between ASEAN's outlook on Indo-Pacific and India's Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative. And the main objective of both the ASEAN and India is that the entire Indo-Pacific region, including South China Sea, there should be maritime security, there should be shared progress for all, whether it is the 10 ASEAN member countries or other members of East Asia. Every country's territorial integrity should be honored, and system of governance, whether it is of transit of ship, whether it is air connectivity, every country should follow international rules-based system. So the objectives of ASEAN as a group and ASEAN members individually as well as of India are the same.
Mr. Kyal, do you feel that maybe ASEAN could be developed into something like the Quad? We've had recent meetings of the Quad where we had US, Japan, Australia, India getting together and discussing the tensions in the region. And Quad also more or less today is being seen as a forum which can help to counter China. Do you feel that this comparison or this attempt to compare Quad and ASEAN is fair?
ASEAN as a group has more focus on economic cooperation, and on strategic side their main focus is to maintain peace and stability in the region. All the countries of ASEAN are rather small, and they are reluctant to take any position which is openly against China. We have seen that in the case of Philippines, when China had occupied their Scarborough Shoal and many other maritime features, and Philippines got a decision in its favor from the arbitration panel of UN Conference on the Law of the Sea, which blamed China and did not accept China's claims, but Philippines was not in a position to get that verdict enforced, to get China to leave areas which were occupied by it. So we have to understand that these countries are, compared to China, small. So my own assessment is that these countries will have full sympathy with the objectives of Quad, with the objectives of India, that China should be contained, China should not become very aggressive, China should play by the rules, but they will not openly come in the support of Quad, and in my assessment, they will not become participant in the Quad dialogue.
Mr. Kyal, going from ASEAN, we also have the Rcep discussions, and we have seen that India has so far been reluctant and we have refused to sign Rcep. Again, the fear is that, it is the cheap Chinese goods which will enter the Indian market, and it is also somewhere unfair to India if we sign Rcep in its current form. But we also see that the other ASEAN nations have been willing to come on board on Rcep. How do you see this discussion around Rcep as we move forward?
Rcep was signed at the last summit in Bangkok, and at the last minute India did not sign a regional comprehensive economic partnership which creates free trade market between the 10 members of ASEAN and 6 other countries which include China, India, Japan, South Korea, New Zealand and Australia. And we have made it very clear to the other 14 members of this Rcep that India cannot allow any tariff concession to Chinese goods, as the Chinese goods system is not transparent and there are hidden subsidies and they unfairly compete in the market. So our partners in ASEAN understand what are the real issues and concerns because of which India did not sign or did not join Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. But here I would like to emphasize that India has a free trade arrangement with ASEAN as a group and also bilateral free trade agreements with individual members of ASEAN.
Mr. Kyal, we have seen one more issue in the backdrop of the ASEAN summit, and that has been the US-China tensions. And we have seen that under President Donald Trump, US-China tensions have flared up quite badly, whether it was the corona crisis where President Trump has repeatedly referred to that the Chinese virus, the trade wars between US and China that has cast another shadow. Do you feel that this US-China tensions also takes its toll on organizations like ASEAN? And is there a feeling that as the administration in Washington DC changes, we might see a lessening of these tensions?
This is called the Asian century, and if we look back, since the end of the Vietnam War in the 70s and after the China-Vietnam clashes of 1979 and the end of the Cambodian problem in mid-80s, the whole of East Asia has been remarkably politically stable and free of wars and conflicts. And after that, all the countries of the region have grown economically, have become more prosperous, have become part of the global value chains. And the reason is that there is peace and stability and tranquility in the entire East Asia. And ASEAN countries very much understand this. They see that China is trying to disturb the status quo. It is trying to become the most strong power in whole of East Asia, whole of Indo-Pacific. Their objective is to push out America. And most of these countries, ASEAN countries, feel that United States is a force of stability in Indo-Pacific region and it must continue with its very robust presence in the region. At the same time, ASEAN countries do not want that there should be any very direct conflict or confrontation between United States and China in this region, in East Asian region, in South China Sea. Because if the theater of any conflict, any war becomes this region, then certainly the victims would be these members.
Ambassador, would you say that there is likely to be a change of attitude by the US towards China once we have Joe Biden administration starting January of 2021? Or do you feel that the US will continue to push back at China just as strongly as we have seen in the presidency of Donald Trump?
If one looks at the statements made by elect Biden himself, he had written a very long paper in the magazine Foreign Affairs in March, and the statements by other democratic leaders, America has now understood that a challenge, eminence in the world is coming from China, economic challenge, technological challenge, and a strategic challenge, and America has to stand up to China. Now, whether it is trade, whether it is Indo-Pacific, and whether it is the future technologies, I believe that President Joe Biden will continue to be tough and continue to challenge China and not give it a free field, which unfortunately had been given by United States to China in the last 2 or 3 decades. The only difference one can foresee is that President Donald Trump's working methods are more blunt, more direct, and very sudden. And perhaps Joe Biden will take a more stand of negotiations and discussions, but it will continue to be a tough policy against China, challenging China's desire to dominate first East Asia, Indo-Pacific, and then the world, and reduce United States to a number 2 power in the world.
Mr. Kyle, when we look at the ASEAN-India cooperation, and we also see that the economic cooperation, there is great potential that is yet to be achieved, and there are a lot of areas in which this relationship can grow further. Which are the 3 focus areas that you would point out to?
There was a ministerial meeting of ASEAN and India in September 2020 where a plan of action for cooperation between ASEAN and India for the next 5 years, that means 2021 to 2025, was adopted. It has focused on 4 or 5 areas. One, of course, is connectivity, and it is hoped that the trilateral highway between our northeast from Manipur via Myanmar to Thailand would be completed. Then there is more scope for maritime cooperation, and core of our relationship will continue to be trade and commerce and education and capacity building, and particularly in the 4 sort of developing countries of ASEAN, Cambodia, Myanmar, Laos, and Vietnam. India has established IT centers, medical centers, and other capacity building programs. So connectivity will not only be physical connectivity by road, but also a digital connectivity and a cyber connectivity. And I believe there would be good progress in these areas.
With this, we bring today's discussion to an end. Thank you.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on India-ASEAN Summit. The participants were Skandranjan Tayal, former diplomat, and Simran Sodhi, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about the program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.